You know, I really put you guys to the test in today's video. I put my love and trust in you guys because I have only found 3 5-star reads this year. I had said 2, and then one of you guys corrected me and you guys were like, wait, Destiny, don't you have 3? You're right, I do have 3. That is kind of crazy that I only have 3 5-star reads. So can you guys help me out? Help me find a 5-star read before the year's over. And you guys are like, I got you, I got you, I got you. And you guys came through. There was one incredibly overwhelming recommendation. We are at the home of books, and let's go in and see what book you guys recommended me, saying that I was going to give a 5 star. This book was the #1 most sent in for what you guys said that I would give 5 stars. Do you guys even know that it's supposed to be holly jolly Christmas time? Do you guys want me to become emotionally unavailable to everyone I love? Stranger Things is already coming out this month, okay? And then you guys want to hit me with this. You guys want to do this and hit me with this. In this video, we're going to be reading Alchemized. But I decided to put it back because that's none of my business. That's none of my business. None of my business. None of my business. I have been going back and forth between like audiobook and Kindle. So when I haven't been reading it on the Kindle, I've been listening to the audiobook. So I am currently on chapter 33, which is exactly 40% through this book right now. I'm this emotionally devastated. The book isn't even over yet. Here's one thing. The whole entire premise of this video is because you guys think you know better than me. And you guys think you know how to find me a 5-star read before the year's over, okay? First off, before I get into any book stuff, I would commit a crime to make sure that I had a lifetime supply of this. This is the Coke Zero Holiday Creamy Vanilla, and it's changed my life. I wake up craving it. Anyway, let's talk about Alchemized. When does the pain and suffering end? It's literally from page 1. I've never been happy. Nobody's happy, actually. But before I even dive into it, I want to address something that I feel like I even saw like in the little bits of what I had seen, that people were recommending this book, recommending it as enemies to lovers. Y'all, like someone please help me. I said the same thing about The Cruel Prince, but this one, like, I'm even kind of more annoyed at people recommending this to be enemies to lovers than The Cruel Prince. When books are marketed as like enemies to lovers, like, I get it because, you know, the plot's going on, but a major plot point is that romantic element, and you can feel when something is a romantic book. The Cruel Prince was not really, like, I feel like the romance, like, there's romance in the book, but it's not the big part of the book. Like, there's so much other stuff going on that actually is the plot. Y'all, this is a book about war and the devastations of war, love and loss and war, some of the reality of atrocious things that happen in this fantasy world element of war. It is not just a silly enemies to lovers book. While there may be a romantic plot, and let me just tell you guys, as of right now, almost halfway through the book, like, you can maybe see where a romantic element may come in at some point. Like, you can see where an author might like leave an opening to that. You definitely can at the point that I'm in. Like, you can kind of infer, maybe just because I know that people have said that it has romance in it. But honestly, if I took that out of there, like already having the knowledge of knowing that there's a romance subplot to it, I don't know if I would necessarily think that there's actually romance in this book. Like, we are talking about our main character, Helena, and how she was thrown into this devastating war and has no memories, and just kind of knows that everybody that she ever held close to her and that she ever loved is dead. And they, not just dead, they were tortured in the most brutal ways imaginable. Seeing traces of people she has once known in her life in these, like, they're dead. Y'all, they are dead, but she's seeing them because the people in this book basically take the dead bodies and like inhabit these dead bodies and like basically use them around the house. So she sees people that she once knew through these dead bodies, and knowing that that's not who they are. Like, in the middle of this, she herself has been through so much, and there's memories that she cannot access. And then the what she has to go through because people want these memories. So what she has to go through all the time. And in this bleak, like that is what I would describe the world that we're living in for the first part of the story, because right now I'm in part 2. I think it's split up, I'm gonna guess like 3 parts, because we had part 1. Now we're in part 2, which is just exclusively flashbacks. And then I'm inferring that we're probably gonna go to part 3, which is going back to present time. But of course, honestly, I was hoping that we did this, because where I'm at right now is us like in the flashbacks and you're kind of putting the puzzle pieces together. Because let's dissect part 1. You basically are reading this book from Helena's point of view, and she is in this tank. She's taken out of this tank and she literally has like no clue what has happened, like why she's wanted, what these memories mean. Basically then she has to go stay with this man who is tasked with basically breaking into her mind. So every like few days or so he breaks into her mind and it's painful, and then somebody else comes in and they do medical things on her. And as you know, you progress with that and you see like the way that she feels, and then she's stuck inside of this house with people who literally hate her, and then she's seeing these like terrible things happen in front of her and battling with the reality. And then also learning about there's this new program going on where it's like a reproductive program essentially, where this is where I think the Handmaid's Tale storyline comes in. Girl, like this is such a bleak thing, and that's why whenever I see it kind of like somebody's like, it's enemies to lovers, like it's no, this is a bleak story about war and the atrocities of war. Like this is not like, I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I am not having fun. I'm not having fun in the best way possible, because I really am enjoying the book. Let me go back. You're watching Helena kind of live this very bleak existence. She's stuck in this person's home. Every day she has to walk around the manor, and it's just like the same thing, the same monotony over and over and over again. I'm gonna be honest, it took me a while to get past that first initial like 10%, because once she goes to the house and just kind of reading that same monotony over and over again, I was like, I don't know like if I can do this. But then I kind of realized that this is very intentional, or at least I feel like it is. I feel like the author's purpose in it is to, again, you're reading in her point of view. I feel like you're supposed to feel that day-to-day monotony of what her life feels like. Like you're supposed to feel kind of where she's at mentally right now in the story, because it's like you kind of know, like I feel like you're supposed to very much feel like her in the beginning, because you know, like I said, you're just dropped into this story. So you kind of know, but there are huge puzzle pieces missing. Like it's like you have like a 1,000-piece puzzle and you maybe have like 5 pieces at best. And you're like, how do I figure out what the whole entire image is supposed to look like with these 5 pieces? Which I feel like is very intentional, but you're supposed to kind of realize where she is at, and then as that first part unfolds, you slowly start to see her maybe like regain little snippets of memory, and she's kind of like questioning everything that's going on around her and what really happened. And part 1 ends perfectly and cohesively into part 2, of course, to kind of like her like this flashback of what's going on in the war and like her friends and what she was kind of like seen as, because with it in part 1, with kind of all of the bad people telling her these things, she's like, that's not true, that's not true. But you almost kind of feel where she's a little bit unsure herself, because while she does have some memory, she can't remember like huge building blocks of what happened. So while she is strong in her faith of the people that she believes she once knew, I feel like you can feel a little bit of uncertainty within her as well, of like, I really don't know what is happening, but I have this belief in my heart of what like went on. Going into part 2, I feel like it's very confusing for me a little bit, because you kind of like look at some of the people around her and you're a little bit like, you know what I mean? But I am like biting my nails wondering how we got from point A to point B, and like how we're gonna get from point B to point C to end this book. Now, here's the thing. I feel like I have read a lot of this book and I am only 40% through it. And I think it's good that I don't own a physical copy of this book yet, because I think if I continued to look at the physical copy of the book, I would just be like, but what I keep telling myself is like, I have read books this long before, but I feel like in those books, I don't think they've ever been this bleak, and I feel like that's sometimes why I feel like I do have to audiobook it, because I feel like sometimes like reading that is not the best way for me to go through it. I feel like I want to put it down, but when I'm listening to it, I feel like I'm able to even like grasp it better. With fantasies, I always have to listen to the audiobook because the names, pronunciation, and just like sometimes when we're doing a little bit of info dumping, I do feel like I have to lock in and like listen to it. And it's because it's basically, for me, it sounds like somebody's explaining it to you when you're kind of going through those info dump things. So I'm like, this is a lot better because it feels like someone's telling me instead of me trying to kind of like read it off of the page, because I do feel like I was more of a, what is that called? The different learning styles. Basically, I learn better if somebody is telling me the information. I'm going to buckle in because I'm terrified. Thank God. Thank God I have sunglasses on because why am I driving to Barnes & Noble? I'm just listening to music and then Back to Friends by Somber comes on. But specifically the lyric that was sending me was, how can you look at me and pretend I'm someone you never met? But just when you think about that in context to Alchemized, I am going to gouge my own eyes out and take my hand and rip my heart out of my chest cavity, because what do you mean I'm driving and listening to this song and being like, holy I'm about to crash my car, and then what does my brain go to? It jumps, it leaps, it bounds to The Great War by Taylor Swift. Just the whole bridge of The Great War and Alchemized. Lace a poppy in my hair, there's no morning glory, it was war, it wasn't fair. How do I go out in public when this is affecting me this much? We'll see how, because I have to do it. I'm like 45% through the book right now. Almost halfway through. I'm definitely breaking out in a rash. Now we're kind of getting more to that romantic type of vibe, if you can even say that, for the book. And there's still so much more flashback to go. So much more flashback. Going to say this, like, I'm really loving the book, but so far, and I haven't even finished the book yet, I do feel like there's like 200 pages. Okay, that's dramatic. But I feel like by the end of it, I'll be like, we could have cut this down like 200 to 300 pages, because like sometimes it just feels like we're going on for too long. I say that, but then it's like, even in sometimes that I'm like, okay, this is like a little mundane, you'll find like a little sliver of information that you're like, oh. Like one of the things that just happened, you learn like this character that popped up, and then you're like questioning when he first pops up in the story, and he is kind of like, you don't remember me, and then you're reading and then you spot him. But it's like, it's an important part, but I also feel like it's kind of like a blink if you miss it, like if you weren't really paying attention. So you also have to really pay attention in this book, because there's just little tiny pieces of information sprinkled out through that you're like, man, this is kind of like mundane. You know, this is like kind of repetitive, like whatever. And then you're like, wait, what did that just say? You know, things like that. I am about to go in here and pick the book up. I know. I know. You guys watched the intro clip and now you're watching this. This is me in real time. I'm over here minding my business. I'm walking, listening to my audiobook, planning out the rest of Bookmas, maybe browsing some Christmas gifts. And I'm in the zone. Literally a chapter ends. The chapter is over right when the next chapter does start. Announcement. Oh, sorry, you're out of audiobook hours. So now I'm gonna go over to Audible and I'm gonna get it on Audible. Let's see how far I am. I'm not gonna do a whole entire update clip because I know that it's probably very annoying to hear this going. Should I just like read it for a little bit before like I buy it on yet another platform? I have the Kindle physical and I'm about to use an Audible credit. Maybe read it for a little bit. Okay, I'm on chapter 48. Okay guys, I'm literally almost 60% through the book. O to the M to the G. Y'all, I had to sit down after this one because what the hell do you mean? I'm sure there's something poetic in it all, but right now all I feel is a new set of manacles. So forgive me if I dislike looking at you. I'm still adjusting to the way these new ones chafe. What are you talking about? What are we doing? What are we doing? I'm sorry if I dislike looking at you. I'm still adjusting to the way these new ones chafe. Literally, someone just like punch me as hard as you can in the face. I think it would hurt less. I genuinely don't know how to feel. Like, I don't know what, I'm so confused. We've gotten some pretty good moments that I feel like have made the story feel just a little bit less bleak, where you can kind of like take your mind off of what's happening. So much so that I also got a reality check. Like, there was a reality check that just happened, and then it kind of reality checked me. Oh my goodness, like I can't believe we're getting things like this. And I'm like going like this, reading it. Wait, I know where we're at after this. Oh my gosh, this is literally ripping my heart apart. I didn't want to care when it happened. I was trying to hurt you, but I'm so sorry that I did. I am about to lose my mind. I'm on page 706. Why am I about to start crying? Why am I literally about to lose it? Guys. Oh my gosh. Oh no. Oh no, no, no. You are lying. There is no way she is the one. Oh my gosh. Oh no, 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 no. There's no way. Oh, this is going to like destroy me in ways that I think has been unimaginable before this. Literally kill me. What is going on? Literally, what do you mean? The twists that this book has, I'm literally about to lose it. Oh my god, I'm literally about to lose it. There's still 20% of this book left. How do I get through this? How do I get through this? I'm going to save the world together, remember? Literally. No. Why? You gotta be kidding me! Well, I just finished Alchemized, and I don't know what I'm gonna do with my life after this. I don't know how to feel, because at the end, I had such anxiety reading, because I was like, I don't know how this is going to work out. I'm like, I don't even know. I cannot believe that I read Alchemized. For one, that book is huge. I fear you guys might have been right. Okay. Hello guys. Unintentionally, this is like, I think a week, yeah, since I have finished Alchemized. And I'm actually so upset because I filmed like a very like real raw like discussion of this book after reading it, and I feel like when you were like, especially with a spoiler alert, 5-star read. Yes, I did rate Alchemized a 5-star. I feel like especially like after finding a 5-star read, your most raw emotions that is going to get your feelings across the best way is like right after reading it. So I filmed that clip, and then when I was uploading all of the footage, I think I assumed, or I don't know, already in the chaos of this. I think that I thought that the clip was uploaded, but it was literally the one clip missing from this video. I don't know. Also, my dryer is so loud. I'm genuinely so mad because while my feeling is the same, like obviously, as I've said, this is a 5-star book, I feel like the raw emotion, like I was literally looking at quotes when talking about the book and crying. So no, you guys aren't gonna get that raw emotion, but I'm still going to try to talk about the book. Alchemized. I gave it a 5 stars. Yeah, someone cooked here. Someone cooked here, and I fear it was you. I was so scared, honestly, when everybody was like, read Alchemized, because I just never really saw myself reading it, honestly. I was like, it wasn't a book that I had FOMO for. And I literally have thought about this book. Like I said, I finished it a week ago, and I have thought about it, I think, once at least every single day since reading the book. It is such a raw, emotional story. It is so heartbreaking and devastating. I cannot stress that enough. This book is devastating, but it's so beautiful in ways at the same time. The ending had me just absolutely in tears. Sorry, I know it's really annoying to refer to the original footage when that no longer exists, so you guys can't even see it. But in the original footage, literally even me just talking about the ending had me choked up because I was just like, life is so unfair. If I had to say like a downside to this book in any way, I have complicated feelings about what I'm about to say. In a way, I feel like the book could have been cut down because I do feel like there were lulls in the story, but as I said earlier, I do feel like there are moments though even in those lulls where you would find these little like pieces of information that were very important. Like I feel like one of the main reveals of the book that I feel like are just so devastating is I feel like within one of those you could say quote unquote mundane moments, but all of the information, like it feels mundane a little bit, but then once you get to the end of the book and things start unraveling, you realize that like every single one of those even like mundane kind of info dump feeling moments mattered in the end of the book. So that's where I feel like when I was reading it, it felt slow and I was like, we could probably cut 200 pages. But then after I was like, but wait, like when I even think to like slow moments, I realized how those puzzle pieces meant so much in the greater equation in the end of the book. Like they were all important moments to have. And also I will speak to this, like even I said the kind of monotony of the repetitive nature within the first part of the book of when she's kind of like this prisoner held captive walking around the manor, and then I thought that it was also repetitive partly in the flashbacks, but then like you quite literally get a line of her saying like it was just the monotony, mundane, like in her memory every day was the same feeling working at the hospital. So even in those emotions I feel like it was intentional. Like I am looking at it though and I'm feeling like every emotion that I was feeling was what I was supposed to be feeling. I feel conflicted about the romantic element of this book because I feel like personally if I would have just read like part 2, it would have been a lot easier for me. It's just that there's like so many complicated things that happen within the story because like I said, this is just like such a devastating story and we're set in such a bleak world. Like when I read part 2, I was like, you know what, this is such a good addition to the story that makes it not feel so, I don't know the word I'm looking for, because like when you're reading even part 2 in the flashbacks, it's like the world they're in, they're at war and they are losing and like what that looks like and kind of that helpless feeling that you have, but then they kind of figure out this thing that they feel like is going to help. So then you're watching all this unfold. So that storyline kind of brought like a little bit of happiness and like the interesting part of it and the dynamic of that and even some of the twists and reveals that happen within that as well. But then when you remember part 1 and then you're thrown back into part 3 and you're also kind of remembering that, it just gets very complicated. Honestly, the feelings on that get very, very complicated. But there were so many like emotional moments that you can see of a love blossoming that just when I was reading it, I was like, you know what, like you just can't help but fall for it because especially again in the world they're in, to kind of have a love connection like that. Why does that sound like I'm on Love Island or something? A love connection? Excuse me, what am I gonna say next? They pulled each other for a chat? Okay, I'm adding myself in here because I feel like I genuinely was not explaining this the way I was trying to convey. What I was saying was when reading part 2, you took part 1 out, like reading the romantic elements that were happening in part 2, I was like forgetting about part 1, and so it felt like a little bit like, oh, I really am enjoying this, but then I would remember part 1 and then I would be like it's, that is what I mean when I say feelings get conflicted or whatever, because if you just took out part 1, the characters that I was reading about in part 2 before part 1, if this makes any sense. If you haven't read this book, it's probably so confusing. The characters, when you read about them in part 2, and like I said, I was just so into part 2 that I completely, honestly, at some point, like I had said earlier in the reading vlog, I would have to like put myself back in reality and be like, wait, like I have seen what happens after this. So I was like completely, not like forgetting, but you guys know what I'm saying. When I would remember part 1, I was like, it like made me feel like, because if you know, you know, like what happens in part 1. So then it made it hard to like root for it. And then I was sad because I felt like the romantic element of what you see in part 2 grows to be something that I think was very well done and that I fell for just within the part 2 section. But like I said, then I remember part 1 and I would just feel like it ruined it. I just feel like it ruined it, and I just didn't feel very well about it after that, because that's just such a hard thing to get through. Out of context, those of you who haven't read the book, you guys are probably like, what? I'm sorry. But also, even just like the friendships within this book, I actually can't even think about it. This book is devastating and emotional and beautiful in ways, and it's so well done. Like, I like the writing, the story itself, the way everything just like comes together, I think is absolutely genius. Like, I think it is so well done, so incredibly well done, that I was so impressed. Again, even in moments I thought were slow, like looking back at it after finishing the book going, wow, wait, every single thing was intentional. I personally really enjoyed it. It is a 5 stars. Haven't stopped thinking about it. You guys were right. You guys were right. What can I say? I don't know what I'm more devastated by, reading this book or losing the footage of me crying over my original review. I might think that me losing the footage is more devastating, honestly, because it makes the review so much more hard-hitting, but those are really like the bullet points that I have on it. Moral of the story, I guess I have you guys to thank for bringing me a 5 star. I honestly didn't think it was possible. I was like, I'm gonna get him here. I'm gonna get him here, and they are not going to be able to find me a 5 star. And then you guys did it. Congratulations, you guys. Should I be saying congratulations to you or myself? I don't know.